All right, we're going to get this webinar started here. For those of you looking at this camera angle here, we are live on a LinkedIn webinar that's being recorded right now as we speak. And my name is Mike Manahem with Govbidpro. Website is Govbidpro.com. You can check us out at Govbidpro.com. We're going to hold introductions until a little bit later. We're going to get right into the presentation. To my left is the laptop for the camera for the LinkedIn webinar. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is the webinar is for how to get prepared for the Trump-Vance administration, which is starting this coming Monday. Today is January 17th, and January 20th is the inauguration. We're all looking forward to it so we can move on, but we're going to talk about, as a small business, how to prepare for this new administration, the executive orders, etc. So what we've done, and by the way, the PDF, if you're on our website, the PDF for this presentation, created in PowerPoint, saved as PDF, is available below. For the LinkedIn folks, that was provided to them before the webinar. Okay. The breakdown is we've got really 3 to 4 areas of breakdown. Number one, we're going to talk about what to expect starting Monday with the transition, okay? And we're welcoming some new people. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
We're already getting started, so I'm going to just continue. I'm also recording this, so we're going to jump right in. What to expect Monday from the executive orders. There's so many different areas. And then 2, we're going to talk about the number of bids and the quality of bids and what the bids are going to look like starting Monday with the new administration. And 3, we're going to talk about how to prepare for this new environment that we're going to be in. So let's jump right in, okay? Number 1, we're obviously going to have a new president. It's a president-elect. He's been president before. With a new vice president and new secretary of state, secretary of defense, etc. So number 1, there's actually 5 areas. There is 1, and by the way, Mike Bertrand just joined us. The PDF is going to be available after the meeting. That'll be sent out, and it's also going to be on our website at the bottom. I'm recording as we speak. So the notes to the meeting. All right. Number 1, we're going to see a shift in energy in terms of, and without getting political, what we're going to talk about the sector and the change itself, in this case energy, and what we're going to do and what's the goal. So we're going to loosen up the drilling regulations, if you will, and that's going to create energy independence for this country. So we're going to see that. That's going to be the first thing in terms of energy. Second, in terms of job creation, we're going to create jobs, we're going to lower inflation. I think we're going to see a tax decrease. We are going to see, we do have a housing shortage in this crisis. We've got a handful of people, it's actually about 1 million people that have left California for large states like Texas and Florida. My mother's a realtor in Florida. And so we're going to see an increase of affordable housing in terms of apartment complexes, condo complexes, and getting people to back to home ownership. Plus, we're going to see some construction, possibly seeing more water being shifted from, say, the overflow of the Mississippi to the southwest part of the country. They've been talking about that. Next, so we've got energy and job creation. Third, and this is a big one, is the government spending is going to happen. In terms of government spending is going to get cut. Right now, we've got 4 million federal government employees, and some of them work from home, and let's be honest, some of them are not working 40 hours a week. So they're going to cut back on that. They're going to say, hey, look, you have an office, which, by the way, we're going to talk about the offices in just a little bit in terms of the selling of government assets to raise money, but we'll get to that. 4 million government employees, some of those are going to get cut by just attrition, by the fact that they don't want to come to the office and commute 3 hours from Northern Virginia to DC. That's a tough commute. I've not done that, but I wouldn't want to do that. That's just me. I work at home myself. This is my home office of Govbidpro. There will be a hiring freeze. We should expect that. That's an easy one. There's going to be some early retirements. There'll be some layoffs of people that just are not completing their goals. There are unions within the federal government employees. You know, there's a contract managers union, and there's a teachers union, and all these different unions. We're also going to see some resignations, so that's going to cut back. That's our biggest expense is the workforce, and they're paid very well. Public sector's paid more than private sector on average. Okay. Moving on, number 4, immigration. So we're going to see an increase in deportations and less of the and more funds going to Border Patrol and Homeland Security, and that's going to start to happen, and we're going to start to see some of these, quite frankly, criminals being deported out of this country, and so we'll work with the country of Mexico to deal with that. We want to see how that plays out, but it's definitely a mess at the border. I live in a border state right now in New Mexico. We are opening up a new office in Florida. We're not sure exactly where. I'm actually traveling to Florida next week to check out the southwest part of Florida. That's Tampa down to Naples, and check out where we're going to open an office there. Anyway. Let's see. This has been announced as well as the government has warehouses and office space and different other assets they just are not using, and they're just a waste. And that goes into the Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, the DOGE, which is not a real federal government agency. It's just they just took on that name of Department of Government Efficiency. Government and efficiency are two words that should not be in the same sentence, quite frankly. But these two are they've worked hard, they've broken it down, and they're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of almost $1 trillion of the sale of government assets through auction. So it makes it fair because the taxpayer paid for this government asset, whether it's a building or it's an office building or what have you. Okay. So those are the 5 areas. I'm going to leave the Q&A till a little bit later in terms of conversation. Now let's move on. The next section is about the bids themselves. But before I get to that, what I want to talk about is there's 3 types of small businesses that should watch this video and have this conversation with us. Number 1, you've got small businesses that have never worked with government, that want to work with government. And they're like, okay, how are we going to work with this government? Second, there's SMBs that have worked with government before, that have tried. Okay. And Justin, welcome. We've already started. So I'm just going to continue the presentation. So again, there's SMBs that have already worked with government. And then second, there's SMBs that have worked with government before, that are like, okay, how do we work with government now? And then, even more importantly, the priority is the SMBs, the small, medium businesses, that's our focus, that have government contracts right now. And that SMBs, small, medium businesses that have bids in the pipeline right now. If you could just mute yourself, please, while we do this. Justin, thank you. Appreciate it. So again, there's folks that want to work with the government, they've not. Folks that have worked with the government before that want to know, hey, how is this government going to work out? And then there's folks that have stuff in the pipeline right now. You have paperwork. Okay, so for example, what happens if, say, you sent in a bid, or you've sent in 20 bids, 20 proposals to the U.S. government, and your contract manager gets laid off or fired or resigns or retires and takes an early retirement? Again, we talked about the fact that there could be a hiring freeze. There will be early retirements, layoffs, and resignations. So that's what the storm that we want to weather is, to talk about that. The answer is to have a consultation with us, and we know how to handle if a contract manager, they have to, the short answer is that contract manager has to give his or her entire portfolio to another contract manager. And that's what's going to happen, is there's going to be less bids, but at the same time, there's going to be more workload for some of the other contract managers that do keep their jobs. All right. We are anticipating an exit from the market. We are anticipating folks that will exit and that will say, hey, the B2G, the business to government, is not for us. It's taking too long. The fact that there's going to be less bids that we expect because we expect more efficiency, and then also the time, meaning, okay, when you submit a bid and it's due next Friday, okay, it's due the 24th, and then the government sits on it for 2 or 3 months because nobody's handling it. Even though they need the product, they need the service, whatever it is, whether it's IT or it's medical or it's construction or whatever it is. So it's going to be more time. There's going to be more time between. It's unfortunate, but this is what we anticipate between the time the bid is submitted and the purchase order is awarded. So we got to look out for that. And so some people, let's take it a step further. We do have a continuing resolution right now until March, which keeps the government open. Well, that doesn't help anybody. Great, we keep the lights on, but we don't have a 1-year budget. And so a lot of the bigger programs, I have a client right now that does testing of helicopter parts. And the government agency that does helicopter parts testing will not give him a contract, even though he's met with them, he's submitted his proposal. They need a 1-year annual budget. They're not going to work off a continuing resolution. Okay. So the process is still the same, where you got to find the bids, you got to do the proposals, you got to submit them, and you go after the bids that you want to do. But again, what's going to happen is between the time that you submit a bid and the time that the purchase order is awarded, there's going to be more time. What I think is also going to happen is that the government is looking for subject matter experts. In other words, the government's not going to buy commodity like laptops or desktops or printers. They've got plenty of that stuff. That's a lot of that stuff is what they're going to cut back on. They're saying, use the computer you bought last year. There's no reason for you to buy a new computer. You have a computer that's 1 year old or 2 years old. The other thing that we're going to start to see also, and I want you to look out for this in September, is that we saw a lot of what we call stupid spending in September. The end of September is the end of the third quarter, which is the end of the fourth quarter for the government, for the federal government. So you had a lot of contract managers go through their budgets and go through their numbers and their finance and say, hey, here's $40,000, here's $50,000. Let's spend it, because if we don't spend it, we don't get it next year. That's going to stop. That's a part of the waste spending that we're going to stop, that we're going to see stop. With Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to stop that and say, no, if you don't spend it, fine, don't spend it. There's no reason to spend it. There's no reason to have redundancy. We're also going to start to see less of the continuing resolutions, which all that is kicking the can down the road and just keeping the lights on and keeping the government open. What else? I've got some notes here. I think we're going to see more instability. We're going to have 1-year budgets going forward in the next 4 years. And so now let's change over to, before we do the Q&A and the introductions, is how do you prepare your small business? We've laid out 7 points. 7 points. Number 1, get your registration ready. Okay? And if you want to wait until March, that's not a bad idea to see what the budget's going to look like, because again, we're on a continuing resolution until March. And right now it's late January. So get your registration set up, get your cage code, your UEI number. UEI stands for Unique Employee ID Number. That is free to get on sam.gov. And if you need help with that, let us know. And I will tell you what we do in just a second. Get all your incorporation, your LLC, your state registrations, get all that set up. Your partners, your bank accounts, all your stuff, get that all squared away. Get all your website, all your contact information cleaned up. Your social media cleaned up. This is a lot of work. All right. Next, this is more governmental, and that is your compliance. There is an IT compliance. We're going to see if that's still going to be needed, and that's an IT cybersecurity compliance. You want to take a look at that. Get all your collateral ready, your business cards, your brochures, your PDFs, your capability statements. If you end up going to a reverse trade show, which we will see happen, you want to have your business cards and your brochures ready. and have your cage code, your UEA number. The businesses out there right now that are woman-owned and veteran-owned and 8A minority-owned and American Indian-owned, get yourself ready. Hub zone businesses, get all your certifications. For the VA businesses, you have to work with the Veterans Administration and the Small Business Administration to get that veteran status. All right. Finally, this is what we do, and that's bid strategy. Okay? And that's bid strategy. So some people, some of our prospects say, hey, I just want to wait till March, or some say, hey, I think now's a good time. It depends what you sell. The government buys everything, and they're going to continue to do so. It's not that the government's going to shut down. The government will cut back, and it's going to be totally different, like we talked about. So a bid strategy of, you go high volume, low volume, more quantity than quantity, I've got clients that do 200 bids a year. I've got clients that do 10 bids a year. So it depends. Okay, we're going to stop the video recording right now, and we're going to go back to the LinkedIn webinar.